Hello, good evening. My name is Elia Aguirre, artist instructor here for Piachuchas. Today I'm going to show you how to do Dia de los Muertos, calavera. And this is my mother. Also want to thank Rosa's Flowers for donating us the flower crown. That's going to go along with the face painting. So before we get started, I'm going to show you the materials that we need. So we're gonna need these two brushes. It's a round brush. It's a 1, and we're gonna need this 10-0. It's a thinner one. We're gonna need some water. If you do have a spray at home with just water, you can use that. If not, that's fine. You just activate the paint with some water in your brush and the sponges, right? So we're gonna use this palette of paint, and I'm gonna go along with how her flower crown is looking. So usually when I do the face paintings for the community for Dia de los Muertos, I usually work with whatever the person has going on, whether it be the dress, the outfit, or the crown that they're wearing. So today we're gonna work with the colors that she has going on that and complementing that. 2 cups of water. If you have buckets, then you use buckets. I usually have buckets because I'm cleaning a lot of brushes, but today we're only using 2 brushes. And then some sponges. So there's 2 types of sponges. You can use these sponges if you got these ones, or you can buy this set. And let me open it up while I'm talking. And you're gonna need black and white. Let me open it up with this. So these sponges right here, they come in a square like this, but then you open it up and it's gonna have like several different like sponges, so it's like little petals. And these are awesome because then they help you work with the shape of the form of the face. And it also has squares if you need to use squares. So right now I'm just gonna start with these 2. If I need more, then I'll go ahead and grab more. Also, the cool thing about it has the squares and it has the round one, so I'm gonna use the round one too. So I'm gonna grab 2 of these, and then the square one just in case I need it, but most likely we're gonna use the round one. And I'm gonna use the 2 round ones. And for cleaning up your brush, usually I have rags, right? Ready. If I need to clean up the brush or need to clean out my hands, that's ready there. And so we're gonna start with the white. So we're gonna do the base in her face. And so I'm gonna spray some water here. If you don't have a spray, you dip it into the water, the brush, the sponge, right? And you're just gonna activate that paint. And this is Nasaru paint. I love using this because it's water-based, and if your kids are allergic or you're allergic to paint, this is water-based. It comes off with like warm water and some soap. So it's my favorite paint to use to do any kind of face painting. And also doesn't turn out as cakey as the oil paint they use, and usually it's been successful for me. Like, I don't have any people that have gotten allergic to this. So we're gonna go ahead and start with her base. And so all you're doing is just tapping it onto the skin. It's gonna look like if it was like powder on, right? So I'm gonna turn her over here. And you can grab enough if you want. I recommend it's better to use a sponge to add the white instead of brushing it, because it gives it a better look. And so we're only gonna get the spots, the places. So the cool thing about this sponge, because it's already like a teardrop, you can use it in the spaces in between the eyes and the nose. And so if you already like, the only thing that you need is like to do your face painting calavera thing. You can prepare everything else, and then you can come in and do that, right? And do the face paint, or you can do it the other way. The reason I already we put the flower crown is so you see how it looks after it's done. But you can certainly do your face paint first and then get the calavera, the crown on. You could also use the flower crowns that if you did the flower crowns last time, if you don't know how to do them, you can use those ones too to complement your calavera face paint. And then I asked her to put her lipstick on, cause I didn't want to use the face paint on her lips, so it's better if she already has it, cause then I can do, if I'm gonna do the teeth on her after I'm done, or do the lines. And so I'm gonna use some of these rags because she's already dressed, and I'm gonna put them right here so I don't dirty her outfit, so I can do the white part of the neck. And again, it's your choice. Maybe you don't want to do everything, you just want to do your face. You can do that, or you can also get to the neck. And it also depends what kind of dress you're wearing, or the outfit that you're wearing, if you wanted to go all the way to your neck, or if you're showing a little bit of this area here, then you can do that. And so you don't want it super white, you want it kind of pale, because again, we're doing a Dia de los Muertos, and giving it that kind of like pale look. And what's gonna pop out is the designs that you do on it, whether it be the flowers, or if you're gonna put other designs. So as you're looking, like, I'm not really pulling it. The only time I'm pulling the paint or applying it like this is only when I get to the eyes. And it's with this sponge. If you have a regular sponge, you're gonna want to use a small sponge, maybe like a circular one, to get in between those areas like this, right? Other than that, I'm just kind of like grabbing the sponge and just applying it like if it was powder. And so the sponge is gonna help you get the base of the calavera done easier than you using a brush and brushing it onto the skin. And so the paint, just depending on the weather, sometimes it's gonna dry up quick, and sometimes it's gonna be wet enough so you can get more. So yeah, you can get a little spray, and that'll help, like just like keep it wet while you're doing your face painting. But if you don't have it, it's fine with the water and just applying it, getting the brush in there, the sponge. You'll be fine. And again, today I'm using the red lipsticks, but there's other calaveras. They'll have like black lips, and then you'll do the lines in between. It just depends what look you're going for. Alright, so the next color is gonna be black. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and use a round sponge. You can use this one right here or something this size. And then I already dipped this in the water. The reason why we have two buckets is so you have one clean water and the other one's more like it's the muddy water, just like, because that's where you clean your brushes or your sponge. So I'm going to start with the black. I'm going to do her eye. And again, it's the same thing, you're just sponging it on. So depending on how the size of your sponge, you use that sponge to advantage to get the circle in. Instead of drawing the circle, you just use the organic shape that's already happening with the sponge. And then what's gonna happen that once it meets up with the white, it's gonna do a blend, and you're gonna have like a couple of like blends of like gray around, and that's fine. And now I'm gonna use this other round sponge and mix up some yellow with some orange. And so, because I don't want to dirty the yellow, I brought the yellow to the orange. Because then if you bring this to the yellow, you're going to make an orange over here. You kind of want to keep that clean over here. So if you want to add afterwards, you can use the back to add more yellow. And so I'm going to do small sponging around the black with the orange. Cerrar el ojo. So I'm going to clean the same orange one, and I'm going to add a little bit more yellow onto that orange. And so when you're working on it, you want to make sure your hands are super dry because it is water based. So if you're working on yourself or on someone and your hand is wet, it might like erase what you're working on already. And that same thing can happen if your sponge is too wet and you go ahead and you just drag the paint. You might run the chance of like taking it off instead of applying the paint. So I'm gonna let that dry and I'm gonna start focusing on if I wanted a design up here and if I want a design over here. And then we're gonna start shaping in the skull to bring the skull like alive. And then I'm just leaving the nose until the end. And if it needs a little bit of white, then I can add it as I go. But for right now, I'm just gonna go on to the next step. So with your other round one, I'm gonna go ahead and make a little bit of purple. So just grabbing some red and then just applying it to one side of the blue over here. It's either gonna make, depending on the blue, if it's too much blue or too much red, it either makes violet or purple. Again, this is my palette, so I'm able to do this, but if you're borrowing someone's palette, or if it's not your palette, I would recommend you be doing the blends onto the palette. If it's yours, then you can explore with that, and then after you're done, you just go ahead and clean it up. So I'm gonna make a flower here on top, and for right now I'm just sponging in the shape. So I already added that color, so now I'm gonna add a little bit more red to that on top. So right now it just looks kind of like a circle in there, and then I'm gonna do another one right here. And then just gonna let it dry a little bit. So right now I'm gonna go ahead and use the other sponge. And we're gonna use some green. Got some green with that. We're gonna do some leaves. So I'm just gonna sponge some green right here. Again, just the shape. And then let's over here too. And so I'm using this end to make the kind of like the shape, using this end for the leaf. So it's right here, this. And then using it the same over here, just like that. And so I'm gonna clean this one again. Dry it up. And then put some water in your pink. Just adding some water in your pink. We're gonna have some of that pink to add it to the flower right here. And then just gonna sponge it on top. Same down here. And then on the other side, or you can clean it up again, and you're gonna grab some white. So you're just kind of like adding layers of color, and kind of blending on the skin already. So now I'm going to go ahead and let that dry. I'm going to start building the skull type of look right here. So we're going to put some shadow right here to take away a little bit of like the realistic of like the shape of the bones, right here. And you can use this sponge right here. Just make sure you clean it. Or if you have the green one, you can also use the back of it. So before I do that, I am going to add a little bit of orange to the sides. Right here. Just a little bit. You can like barely see it. And so now we're going to use black, but when you are using black, you don't want to overdo it with the black because it can become overpowering. So you want to be careful where and when you use the black. And I usually have a towel on the table. It's where I sponge it before I actually start sponging onto the skin. That way I know how wet or how dry the paint is. So I don't make a mistake of actually getting it too wet onto the skin. So I'm going to use this, and I'm going to use the shape to form the skull. And so all I'm using is the ends of it, like this. Now you can draw it with your brush. This is just the style that I do it. I work the calavera with the sponges. The sponges are my tool. And so if you notice, it didn't use the whole area, I only used the edge of the sponge. And that's kind of like all of the black that I'm going to need right there. So I'm going to go ahead and start working on the eyes and doing the petals on the eyes. And at this moment, it's whatever you feel comfortable using, right? You can use either or. Know that the thinner one, the 10/0, it's going to be a very thin line, and this one's going to be a little bit thicker. But it's just whatever you're comfortable, whatever you're going for. And if you use, when you're using the brush, instead of pressing it, you're kind of just using the tip of the brush. So it works if you want thin lines. If you want thicker lines, then you go ahead and push the brush. So it's kind of like you're working on it like this. And if you want it thicker, then you'll go ahead and push it more. So I'm going to start with a thin one, and if I feel like it needs to be thicker, then I go ahead and change the brush. And now, so what I'm doing right now is just kind of like adding the water with the brush to get enough of that black. So if you see, like, you can test it out before you do it, the kind of lines that you want, right? Yeah. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of like, and here I'll put it over here. But then you can test it out there. You can probably also test it out on a piece of paper, but I mean, you can test it out on your hand. And then just clean it up, right? To get the kind of lines that you want. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start with that. After what I'm doing, and I can show you here in my hand. This could be like the part of where the eye is at. What I'm doing is I'm just taking the petals like this. Just like that, around her eye. And some of them are going to get a little bit bigger, and that's fine. And so I'm going to start here. You can close your eyes. Thank you. And just go around. Like that. So if you are doing it for a person, you would be standing maybe on this side they're sitting. That makes it easier for you to do the brushing of the strokes on the brush. If you're doing it for yourself, well, it's a little bit different because you have to focus on like your reflection, right? And so sometimes I will lean on the person's nose if I need like to have support. Otherwise, there's times when I just go ahead and do it like that. And so what you want to do is when you're doing it, like you want your paint to be ready. So you don't have to repeat the same lines again. You only do them like that one time, right? Get it right like on the first time. And then I am going all the way into the black, meeting the black lines all the way into the inside of the black. Some of them you can stop right there, or some of them you can go in there. Usually I like to do it when it gets to this point, get the petals inside to meet in here. And so now that that's done, I'm gonna add a little bit of orange to the center, on top of the black. So just grabbing some orange and applying it in the center, more like where the eyelid is at. And again, I'm sponging it on instead of like rubbing it into her eye. Then I'm gonna go ahead and grab the round brush, the number 1. And we're gonna apply lines inside, or dots, whichever you prefer. And so the lines are going to be here, just like that. And again, you use the way the tool, the shapes that the tool has, right? So I'll show you right here in my hand. There's ways to push it so it has certain shapes onto your skin, right? And so before you do it maybe on your skin, you practice it on your hand. So it's kind of like what comes out of the brush when I do this, right? Now I'm going to use white with the same brush. And you want to make sure that your brush is clean too. Now at the end of those lines, we're just going to add some dots. Like that. And so that same brush, we're gonna do what I was doing in my hand, the same shape. Now I'm just gonna apply 2 over here. Two over here, just like that. And so I'm going to start designing the top of the flower, but before we do that, I do want to add a little bit of yellow to that green. So with this brush, I'm just gonna add some yellow to that green. Like that. So I'm gonna work on here, just add a couple lines right there. And you can do that with the sponge too. Again, you're using the edge, not the full sponge. The edge is where you're gonna need. Yeah. And so I'm just creating the lines like that. And then just adding more of the dark shadows on the bottom. So you can keep it simple with that, or you can get more elaborate. It just depends on you. For right now, I'm just going to leave it like that. If I feel like I want to come back and add more to it, then I will. But I'm going to focus more on the face. But this is just something simple, you know, not too complicated. So yeah, let's go ahead and start doing the flowers on top. And I'm going to use a thin brush for this one. So it's the number 10. And again, when you're using the brush, you want to have the paint like wet enough so you can pick up some paint and draw paint with it, right? And so with it, I'm just gonna go ahead and put some dots in the center of this flower, and then just kind of like move with the brush organically, just shapes like this. And if you are touching this area, make sure it's dry, right? If you're gonna use this as your support. So a couple waves around, all the way around, and that'll make you a flower. So, kind of show you what I did right there on my hand. Let me just wipe my hand off. So it's kind of like I put the dots there like that, and so I'm just kind of like moving the shape like that. And it can go full or it can stop. And of course right now it doesn't really look like nothing because it doesn't have color, but once you have colors in it and you apply the black, then it turns it kind of like into the flower. Or if you wanted a different kind of flower, kind of like a rose, then you can go ahead and draw that rose on top of that. And try it out. Maybe you want to use the other brush instead of this thinner one, you know? It just depends what you're comfortable with. I'm comfortable using this brush, but you might be comfortable using another brush. Now these two brushes are the ones that I recommended for this tutorial, but you can use another brush like that you find more comfortable or better to do your lines with. And so now I'm going to work on the bottom one so the top one dries. And then I can come back and do that area right here with the beads. So even with dots, if you would go around with it, that also works too. And so now I'm going to move back to the top and work on the beads. Just making a line like that. And they're just kind of following the shape. Like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the lines in between. And so with the round brush, number 1, I'm just going to do a couple of dots right here. And so these are just like little details, designs, just like that. And now I'm gonna blend a little bit of black onto the green. Just try to make it darker green. And it's just gonna do a little bit of detail, like decoration around the eye. And then right here. So what I'm doing is just kind of like coming in where it needs, like where it has space. Then I can add these little, like, I guess it could be called stems, or just like it's just design, and it's part of like the flower, right? Sometimes the stems carry these designs, or the flower bouquet and stuff like that. So that's kind of like what I'm doing around wherever it's needed, not like everywhere. And so right here, I'm just gonna use that area 2 to do the same thing, and bring some right here. And I'll do it on the other side right now too, that way you guys can look. So just kind of going right here. Also, it just depends, right? Her hair is gonna be like this, but sometimes the hair is more back, and then you'll be able to see those little details. But I'm still gonna show you how to do it. That way you get an idea of what you can do with this. Just like that. You could even bring some from right here too, and this way. Just like that. Some of them is just like, just a line. It kind of looks like a little snake, right? Just coming down like that. And then I'm just gonna add a couple dots right there. Now I'm gonna grab a little bit of white with the brush. And then just do a couple highlights inside the flower, right? And the same thing on the bottom, and then we're gonna go ahead and finish this part here, and then we're gonna get to the mouth. And then back to the other brush with the black or with that the dark green. You can do the following step. Then I'm gonna grab some of that black or green black and just kind of like finalize the bottom of the chin rather with this black. And so yeah, like on this side, this leaf is a little bit lower and this one's a little bit higher. It just depends how you want it. That's kind of like the shape that the sponge gave me, so I went with that. But if you want them to look the same, then you can do that too. So on the side, I'm just gonna add another swirl. And then I'm just using one color right now, but if you wanted to get more into detail, then you can add some white highlights or a little bit more of black. That's with the round brush. I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of like put some a darker line on top of that black, so it kind of pops out a little. Like that. And also just gonna connect it just like this. And then if I want to kind of make it look that it's connected to the upper side, just add a little bit of that orange maybe. Or it can be black. So when you add the black, it looks cool too, because then it'll make it like skinnier, and then your focus is on this part of the neck, not the full neck. And then I'm gonna add some yellow to that. That. And so now we're gonna get to the mouth. And again, use the brush that you're most comfortable with. I'm gonna go ahead and use the thin one, 10/0. And so she already did her lips with her lipstick. All I'm gonna do is add the lines, kind of representing the teeth, right? We're gonna go with something simple. Instead of doing the actual design of the little teeth, we're gonna go and do make the teeth with lines. And so what I'm doing right now, I'm just getting my black paint wet enough so it's ready when I'm working on this part. So there's two ways: pulling it out of the lip up and then down right here. I would recommend doing it from the lip up, and then you can hold it. Like that. And so I'm taking it in this way, but you can also just take it up wherever it goes. And if you wanted to do some tiny ones, you can do some tiny ones in between. So what I'm going to do right here is just take the whole line like this, and then pick it up, and then just circle it up right here, like that. And you're going to do the same thing on the other side. And then just adding more lines here. One here and then two over here. The same thing over here. Yes, So the next part is just kind of like the nose. And just gonna add a little bit more black down here. So the black, you're gonna grab it with the sponge. Just like that. And again, you can use that corner to your advantage if you want to get a good like edge right here on top. What I'm doing is just kind of like applying it by sponging it on. And so I'm using the whole shape of this to get the paint on in certain areas. So this area right here would work like this. Under area would work like this. And then I'm just going to do like a white highlight there. You can use the same sponge, turn it over. Get some white. And so there we have our calavera, Dia de los Muertos, face painting. You can do the same thing, only half, right? I went ahead and did a full one, that way you have options and you know the process that goes by doing this. And so it's just, everything's been worked with sponge. That's the way that I've been developing the skill. There's different ways of doing it. If you feel like you gotta do it with the brush, you could, but using the sponge is gonna help you finish this calavera much quicker, and you're also not wasting a lot of paint. So yeah, before we go, I just want to ask you guys to share your pictures of your calaveras on the Instagram for Tia Chuchas or aguirre.art, and also want to thank what is her name, Rosie's let me see, Rosie's Flowers, for the beautiful crown. They donated this for this tutorial, and check them out too for any flower products that you want, or if you want a flower crown to go along with your face painting. Thank you for being here, and again, share your artwork with us, and see you guys next time. Thank you. Also, thanks my mom for being the model. Thank you.